Welcome back to the Great Indian Points and Miles Show. I'm your host Aadil Bandukwala. It feels amazing to dive into our second episode.
So I never got the credit card in India. Moved to the US for a while. When I opened my bank account there, they just handed me a credit card. They were like, just why not take it? And I was like, what is that's how easy it is here?
A lot of people, often are so calculative on ROI. It's for an experience, man. Why don't you go get that experience that you would never have using cash, right?
I think one very good litmus test to know which property is great is just look at the room count. If it's above 100, you'll have like a very business-like experience, right? If it's below 50, you'll have a very, very like personalized experience. And if you look at like the Marriott portfolio overall, I think platinum is when like you actually start seeing some of the suite rooms and like you get free breakfast, you get like lounge access, and like some of these properties have like really gamified it, right? Like because now properties are more right, they'll give you like a die that you roll and then whatever comes you get that.
If you want to get to Marriott Gold instantly, get the American Express Platinum Charge Card. That automatically upgrades you directly to Marriott Gold. But the real benefits, like Chaitanya said, start kicking in when you are Platinum.
But one good thing about a Marriott as a program is that you can also transfer your Marriott points to airlines, right?
If you want to get to Platinum, Marriott has this hack which is called the 14 nights status upgrade challenge, where you can enroll and instead of doing 50 nights with Marriott, you can just do 14 nights in like a 4-month window, and then they extend you Platinum status for like a year or a year and a half.
Lights flashing bright, we're on the go. Tune in now, there's so much to know. Earning bits, travel dreams we sow. All aboard the Great Indian Points and Miles Show. Zero to hero in the blink of an eye. Fly first class, no need to be shy. Redemption sweet, touching the sky. Award seats booked, let's give it a try. Award seats booked, let the points flow. It's all aboard the Great Indian Points and Miles Show. Unlocking journeys wherever you go. The sky's the limit, feel the travel mojo.
Welcome back to the Great Indian Points and Miles Show. I'm your host Aadil Bandukwala. It feels amazing to dive into our second episode. If you've ever dreamed of checking into the luxurious hotels, the kind with overwater villas in the Maldives, suites with Eiffel Tower views in Paris, or mountain retreats in Aspen, all without paying a single rupee, this episode is for you. Today, we're unlocking the secrets of the Marriott Bonvoy program, a treasure chest of possibilities for turning your points into incredible stays at some of the world's most iconic properties. From free breakfast to exclusive butler services and those envy inducing Instagram worthy rooms, Marriott Bonvoy has it all. But here's the twist, it's not just about earning points, it's about playing the game smartly. And for that, I've invited one of India's most admired points and miles enthusiasts, experts, someone who truly lives and breathes this world to share his expertise. So grab your notepad because this episode is packed with actionable insights that could change the way you travel forever. Now, let's get into the segment where I introduce our guest. Our guest today is Chaitanya Choudhary, better known in the points and miles universe as Brown Points. Even remotely been interested in miles in the India space, you've probably heard his name. Chaitanya is one of India's most admired points and miles enthusiasts, a true globetrotter who's explored over 50 countries and counting, all on points and miles. Beyond his personal adventures, Chaitanya has recently founded Enzo, an AI powered personalized travel advisor designed to streamline and enhance the travel planning process. His deep understanding of various loyalty programs, combined with his innovative approach to travel planning through Enzo, makes him the perfect guide for today's discussion. We've known each other for a few years now, and I can tell you firsthand, he's not just knowledgeable, but he's also got an incredibly generous personality that shares his expertise on all things points and miles, not just in person, but also Twitter and Instagram. Whether it's cracking the Marriott Bonvoy game or scoring insane flight redemptions, Chaitanya has done it all. Trust me, you're in for a treat. With that, Chaitanya, Welcome to the Great Indian Points and Miles Show.
Wow, that was wonderful. I think like I'm not even half as good as a orator like as you are. It was a very generous introduction as well. So thank you for having me, Aadil. I think we have been like in touch for so long, spoken about points and mile redemption many times. I think this is one of the like first formal setting where we like share it with the other people. But I'm super excited to share whatever I know. I've been doing this for quite some time, and I think I first got into it when I was like in back in college. I was not really like a big space in India. Like it was still like Points Guy in the US and all of those folks were like pretty big. So I was always like super excited to like do the same things while using Indian credit cards. But like I think now is the time when like everything is picking up, everybody's talking about it. So yeah, happy to share like all the things that I've learned over the years.
How far was back when you started, Chaitanya? You said you were in college. How many years back was that?
So I graduated in 2017, and I got the first taste of it basically. So I did like a brief research program in the US, and there, like, so I never got the credit card in India. Like when you're a college student, everybody would be like, you need to have a fixed salary. Things become even more difficult when like if even if you have salary coming in or like a steady income source, but if you're self-employed, then again like it's super difficult. So I moved to the US for a while, and when I opened my bank account there, they just handed me a credit card. They were like, just why not take it? And I was like, what is that's how easy it is here? And I started following all of these points guy and all some of these 1 mile at a time forums that are there in the US. And I always wanted to like basically do something similar, but in India. And so it's been like what, like close to 7 years now when I first got the taste of using points. And I remember like the first award redemption that I did was on ANA, which is like not what most people would assume. It's like a very not a very popular program. But that's how I basically got into it. B-
That's very niche. Like most people, their typical redemption would typically be a Bonvoy, or it would be one of the more known carriers, like for example, United or SQ. But yours particularly was ANA, and ANA is very interesting. Was there something peculiar about the carrier? Did you want to visit Japan? Like what really brought that story to life? How did ANA happen?
So there's like there's definitely a story. So Japan. So I took Japanese as a third language in school. So and Japan used to organize these exchange programs where like some kids from Japan would come study at our school, and some of the kids from our school would go to Japan. And and each year they would send like 4 or 5 kids. So I was the year when I was selected to go there, the Japan unfortunately had like a massive tsunami, and then the program was scrapped. So ever since that time, I've always wanted to visit Japan. And one of the programs that was very lucrative was ANA because you get like a round trip redemption. It restricts you to round trip redemption, but it's like a great value if you're like flying business class. You can book it for as low as like 58,000 miles round trip with like very minimal taxes. This was pre-COVID. Now I think like things have changed. And I would fly. So for work, I would fly Air India a lot, and then I would pool all of those miles on ANA because that was like the dream redemption I always wanted to know. I think it was more driven by like the fact that I was not able to go there in school, so that I had to like somehow fund it with miles. Yeah, that was like I couldn't have imagined if I like told anybody at that point like that's how I'll end up going to Japan. And now I've like been there like 4 or 5 times, like spent like months there. It's still one of the favorite countries, and I'm actually planning a trip to Japan in March next year. I've booked my flights, and the hotels are definitely going to be on Marriott because they have like a lot of nice properties in the Bonvoy portfolio that are coming up in all across Japan. So if folks who are like interested in Japan as a destination, like Marriott could be like a great program. Uh, yeah.
That's fascinating because just yesterday I recorded an episode on Japan with two of my friends, Dhimant, who works at Swiggy, and Niranjan, who's pretty much like a flights and points expert. And they had very interesting insights to share as well. And particularly, they used a core, but now you're saying Bonvoy, and I think this is like fascinating. So tell us more about your flights, onwards and return. What sectors are you flying, and what category cabin have you booked? How many miles did you burn? Because I think coming into this podcast, this will be good insight for our listeners.
Yeah, so Japan, I usually always end up booking ANA round trip. So I recently had like enough. So I think like this may not make a lot of sense for folks who are trying to use their Indian reward programs, because ANA is not a partner, so things go out of the window there. Like if you somehow like try to,
Yeah.
but one good thing about Marriott as a program is that you can also transfer your Marriott points to airlines, right? So if you really want to try AN as a product, I think you can still like, I mean there are better ways of doing it, like you can use Virgin Atlantic as a program to book ANA flights. But if somehow like you're restricted that you only want to book your flight on ANA program, then you can still like use your Marriott Bonvoy points, transfer them there. It's 3-to-1 ratio, with like incremental 20,000 miles you get like a 5,000 miles bonus. um so I booked ANA round trip with 60,000 miles on ANA, which was pretty good for business class. So this is Delhi, Tokyo, and back. All the other programs I think would have costed 60,000 miles one way, right, in business. So it's overall great value. I think like they have become slightly more notorious with ANA is that they waitlist a lot of people. So even if you book a seat, you are waitlisted, and it clears like a week before departure. So that's a problem. But one thing that we internally Enzo do is like basically do a mass search on the entire calendar, and like you get, okay, these are the spots that are available. And there are like many other tools that you can use to like basically search for availability. So ANA is already booked, and it's an old product. It's not really like a very fancy product, but their service is top notch. I think like that's what keeps like me going back to the like the old dated business class, but like still one of the best.
Yeah, I heard the food's great too. So again, thanks for sharing that, Chaitanya. Safe travels to Japan. It's exciting. A lot more Indians now adventuring into Japan. We look forward to maybe doing another one with you later on once you visited Japan, unlocking those insights about your experiences with Bonboy. But with that, I think we should get started with our episode today. So, first section, Chaitanya, I wanted people to get a sense of what's possible. So let's just call this section "Understanding What's Possible." So, can we talk about two things here? First, can you tell us one, what kind of luxury stays can Marriott Bonvoy points unlock? What kind of stays have you really enjoyed that you would say, okay, paying money would be a little hard for something like this, but points, oh yeah, I'll take it any day. It was so fun. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think like if we talk about aspirational stays, I think Marriott has to be like hands down the best program, right? They have like a wide selection after the SPG merger. I think they basically have, I think, the most diverse set of properties across the globe, right? Even at places where like you would least expect it. Uh, and if we talk about like the kind of stays, right, you could have like wildlife safaris in like Masai Mara, which became very popular recently with JW Marriott opening up there. Or you could have like the St. Regis properties in Maldives, and like there's a very nice Ritz Carlton as well there. In talking about Japan, like so Hokkaido, the northern region of Japan is like very like good if you are like into skiing. So they have like a Ritz Carlton Reserve property that recently opened up called Ritz Carlton Reserve Nesco Village. So that's pretty good. And if you talk about Southeast Asia, Bali, Indonesia side, you have like Ritz Carlton Reserve, again, like a Nubud property, Mandapa, which is like hands down one of my favorite properties. I've been there like twice already. Uh, and if we talk about like just the sticker price for these properties, they're all like $1,000 plus a night. So you get a lot of value if like folks just want to maximize per point rupee value. But overall, even like the experience there, it's like also really, really worth it. And if you top it up with like the fifth night free that you get when you're redeeming points, that's again like, a great value. Um, but if even if we leave all of these aside, I think like another very good addition to like these this the Marriott portfolio is also the all-inclusive properties. So like there's Al Maha in Dubai, where like once you buy on points, you don't have to pay anything. Inside, you like all your meals are covered. There are two activities that you can try out. So that's another like like reduces your upfront cost for the trip significantly. And I'm sure like they're coming up with more of these. So they have like some of the all-inclusive properties in the South America. There's one in so there are like quite a few, right? So like you have a decent selection of ones like if you want to use all your points and just not pay for anything, even food and drinks.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let's get a little deeper into that and set expectations. Saying, let's talk about what's possible to achieve and what's not. Because sometimes, some of us might have unrealistic expectations. So it's important for our listeners and viewers of the podcast to know one, what is achievable with an average Indian traveler's spending habits? Like, what could be realistic goals for earning and then burning or redeeming those points in 1 year? And then let's also talk about what's unrealistic. Like, can we dispel myths around um, the imagining of what's mission impossible? And somebody might want like a suite, but hey, you can get it, but it's going to cost you significantly more miles. So let's talk about what's possible and what's not possible.
Yeah. I think like let's just start with the calendar availability. I think a lot of people just like have this misconception that, oh, it's always available. I think like ever since Marriott introduced dynamic pricing, more often than not, if you just look at the calendar and the points required, you'll be like, oh, it makes no sense, right? Like it's very low per point rupee value. Um, and also like I think for most people we have like a very strict holiday dates, right? Like if you maybe like if you are a family, you have kids, they go to school, right? Like so you're kind of like restricted in the dates when you can actually take a trip, which also means that you need to like plan all your trips way ahead in time, right? Like you need to keep an eye out for like all of these deals that keep coming up. um but like everybody would try to sell you that you just have like, oh, 1 lakh points, you'll just take 10 nights at some property, which is not the case, right? Like in oftentimes more often than not, you'll be like spending like upwards of 1 lakh points per night for some of these hotels. So I think like one expectation that everybody should set is like always like, plan ahead and like always keep an eye out for like all of these awards. And also what happens is like even if you book like, if you hold a award reservation, the points required drops often, right? Like so you need to like keep checking even after you're booked, right? Like that will save you like tens of thousands of points oftentimes. And there are tools that can do that, and hopefully like Enzo will be able to do that for you as well. So that's one thing. And another one is like I often feel like people focus too much on like maximizing the per point value, and they'll just keep holding on to like a large pool of points. They're like, I know some people who have like 1 million points and they're not using them anywhere. Like one of my very close friends has like upwards of like 2 million points, and he would still like book cash more often than not. And they're like always holding on to this notion that, oh, I'll just do this one big vacation sometime in the future, and like just like or use all of those points. I think like that does more harm than good. Like oftentimes these reward programs are like so volatile, you'll just like end up losing, like how a lot of people were holding on to the points balance before the Marriott dynamic awards happened, right? Some properties like the prices drop, but like for some properties the points required like increase significantly. So um I would always advise that you use whenever you get like a reasonable value and when you're actually taking a trip, right? Don't hold them off for like just, oh, I'm only going to use them at a St. Regis Maldives or something, right? Like, I mean, eventually, if you look back and if like use them wisely over time, you'll end up saving enough money that you can book those properties on cash, right? Like it doesn't always have to be like an aspirational property, but like you'll save enough money that you can actually use that money at some other property, which is maybe not Marriott, but like is a reasonable value, and like you're not restricted by just one reward program. So that's another thing. Like, don't ever like just keep holding on to the pool of points for like, unless you have like some idea when you can actually time it. And that comes with like experience. Like, there will be a lot of like points and miles geek who would like time the system, because they're always like they've spent enough time in the program to know like when's the right time to book some of these properties. But if you don't have the bandwidth of doing it, maybe like ask some of these people to help you out, or like just use whenever you can, like, another, I think, like a very common misconception that keeps floating around is like people like, oh, I'm only going to redeem when I get like 1 rupee per point value. Like, it's like, why do you need to do that, right? Like, maybe like you'll get 1 rupee point value at some very bad hotel in New York, like, Courtyard Marriott going for a $900 a night. And then you're like, no, no. And it's like, maybe like, what, 50, 60,000 Marriott points. You're like, oh, you're getting better than 1 rupee value. But is that the hotel you want to stay in? Maybe not, right? So I think like I would always like go for like utility over luxury. Like, at a lot of times, like, which is why, like, a lot of I admire like a lot of people who are doing like Accor stays, because like oftentimes you get like better value there. Maybe like not a very fancy hotel, but like overall it's great value over and the same thing happens with like Marriott. Oftentimes you'll be like maybe spending, I don't know, like in New York, if you're staying for 5 nights, there's some like reasonable properties that are going for like 40, 50,000 points a night, but like are 300, $400 range. So there, like you could like maybe you're getting like less than 1 rupee value, but like you saved a big chunk of money that you can then later on use on like maybe an aspirational all cash redemption. So I think like these are the things that are on top of my head. Like, people should look out for, and like not try to like squeeze and like each and every cent out of the reward program, because oftentimes that will leave you in like big losses. Like, I've seen a lot of people like lose like a great value over time just because they wanted to like maximize it to the extremes.
I'm so with you there, Chaitanya. I think a lot of people, often are so calculative on ROI. My whole point is like, it's for an experience, man. Why don't you go get that experience that you would never have using cash, right? Because you were so frugal in life. Just go and enjoy that experience. And I think points and miles, the metric is amount of joy it gives you, and the thrill that you experience something that you traditionally never would have. And screw the value, it doesn't matter. If you're married, take your wife along, take your girlfriend along, take your kids along, take your family along, take your parents along, right?
Yeah.
The kind of thrill they would have saying that my son or my daughter got this for free, that's a high that you can never potentially experience in the form of your ROI metric, right? So I'd say 100% supportive of you. Ditch the ROI, chase experiences, and those experiences for sure will give you kind of joy. 100% aligned with that.
100%. Like, I think like it's one thing, like if I start looking at maximizing value, like I should have used my points in Maldives, right? But like I travel solo. It would be like so sad if I'm just sitting in some villa alone and not much to do around. So I think like this value aspect is different for different people. Like, a lot of people would be like, you know what, like I can maybe book like a suite to US for like 200,000 miles or whatever. But like, instead, why not take like your entire family on like economy class to Japan, right? Like, that's overall like much better value than like just you maximizing the points value for like just yourself. This is also something that I've recently started doing. Like, I had like some flights booked for myself. I like canceled those and booked. My parents were traveling, so I booked for them. I think like I felt much happier doing that than like just enjoying like a first class by myself. Um, so I think, yeah, that's you put an excellent point, right? Like, you should always focus on like the experiences, or like the joy that brings like you, right? If a hotel where you're getting like 30 paisa per point value is making you more happier than somebody doing a Masai Mara vacation, you are in a better spot, right? Like, just use it. yeah, I think yeah, people should talk more about that. I feel on Twitter, and like I think everybody's living in sort of like a bubble where like, oh, everybody's just flying first class like all the time, and so yeah, that's yeah, totally on that with you.
Awesome. With that, let's come to our third section. Third section is, so what we've talked so far is we've tried to understand, like, one, what's possible. Second, we've tried to set expectations of what's realistic and what's not. And then now I think it comes to the heart of the podcast where we'll try and say, okay, how do I score Bonvoy points? That's a question mark, because I don't stay in Marriott ever. I've never stayed in Marriott for that matter. If someone goes and says, right, there might be people on the podcast who've said, like, I've never stayed in Marriott. How do I score Marriott points? Are there still ways? So, if you can break down what are different avenues other than staying in the Marriott of earning Bonvoy points, and how does one go build this entire roster of points before they decide where to spend?
Yeah, I think like that's that's something that I get very often whenever I post like a reel or like a post on Instagram saying, oh, I booked like this suite room or like a hotel room on points. They'll be like, oh, but you're probably spending crores worth of money on your credit card to earn all of these points. I think like what people need to understand is like once you start optimizing reasonable spends in like your life, these are like fixed spends but also not too small that once you start optimizing them you're like wasting too much time. um you'll be surprised how quickly you can pool all of these miles, right? If we talk about like Marriott Bonvoy as a program, I think um it's fairly easy to like pool a big chunk of points just using like a few credit cards, right? You have American Express, which is pretty great. I hands down the best use of Amex points personally for me is just Marriott, right? You have not just for the stays, but like you have the platinum travel card, which is like very cheap. It's not like a large annual fee tied to it with 4 lakh spends in a year, which is not like crazy for most people, right? Like if you're a working professional, you have daily spend, expenses, insurances, all of that, right? Like if you put all of that, it's fairly easy to like achieve that milestone. That gives you like a reasonable amount of points by the end of the year for like a night or two at like a good Marriott property. Again, I think like people just do the Excel math. They're like, okay, so 50,000 points is going to give me like maybe half a night at like one of these aspirational properties. So what's the point, right? And then they'll go 4 years doing that, not utilizing your points. Like maybe by the end of the fourth year, right? Like you end up with enough points to book like 3 nights at Maldives, right? Like so, I think, um, and most people like I think like again, that's kind of like a bubble. What it has done is like people think people are traveling all the time, right? Like it's not the case, right? Most families would like take one vacation a year if they're lucky, right? Like one big vacation a year. Um, and these are the people I'm talking about, like, in India, like a middle class family of like, a reasonable household income, but like are tied because of their kids or like very few days that they get in the year. Um, and now think about like over a long period, right? Like over 2 3 years, if you optimize your spends right, I think you can end up on a reasonable chunk of points that good for like one aspirational vacation that you would have never thought of, right? Even if we don't talk about like aspirational vacation, leave that on the side. Like there's still like some decent properties within India that you can like. There's the great JW Marriott nearby, the Bangalore, right? Which like a lot of people, it could be like a good weekend outing.
It's perfect. I think that's an amazing point you said. I mean, the JW Marriott Gulfshire, I think it's one of my favorite redemptions always, because, if you're in Bangalore, you're looking for a quick getaway.
Yeah,
And this is one of those ROI calculators too, because I think it offers very superior value.
yeah,
They typically charge 30K plus taxes a night, so that's going to be like 36K
yeah,
INR. But if you book it on points, it's probably going to be 23,000 points a
yeah,
night. So you're anyways getting 1.5 rupee per value. But screw the value. I'm thinking, like, the whole property is so beautiful. It's built on one of India's most pristine 18-hole golf
yeah,
courses. Two, it's got spectacular restaurants in the form of East and Alishan. If you like Asian food, sushi, if you like cold cuts, nothing like it. This restaurant is spectacular, and Alishan just has the most amazing Indian cuisine. And then they've got a couple of others as well. But the rooms are spectacular. The very generous hosts, more often than not, they upgrade you. They throw in a free breakfast most of the time. So I think like 23,000 points a night, like you said, if you're a noob in this world, and if you're starting out as a listener to the Points of Mind world, I think both Chaitanya and I would heartily recommend go get the American Express Platinum travel card as your first card. It's like 3,500 rupees, I think, as fees and taxes. So it would come to say maybe 4,000 rupees a year. But what you'll get for that 4,000 rupees, I think, is 50,000 points and a 10,000 rupee Taj voucher. So go celebrate whatever you want at Taj voucher, redeem those 10,000 rupees. 50,000 points, you get 2 nights at Golfshire, man. I mean, go have a great staycation at Golfshire.
Yes.
So very well put, Chetan.
Yeah, and also like if you are in the north, the western in the Rishikesh has become like very popular. I agree, like it's not really like a like as good of a property as like JW Marriott, but like I think it's a reasonable outing, right? Like it's also very family friendly. Like if you have like your parents, and you can go to Rishikesh, they would love it, right? Like my mom and dad would like love to like just go there and like go to all these that Ganga thing, and I feel like also great value. Or you can go book it as low as like 16,000 points a night. And that property goes for like 35, 40,000 INR per night. So that's another great value redemption. If you're just like trying to optimize, still getting into the game, I think that's great. There are plenty of like nice properties, even in like Thailand, where like the points requirement is not high. Sure, maybe like you won't get like more than 1 rupee like per point value, but like even if you get like 40 paisa per point, that's great, right? Like it's saving you cash that you can then use for like all the other things. Another thing, like not just like Amex points, right? Like there are other avenues of like pooling miles. I think you need to look out for like all of these promotions that Marriott keep running, where like you get accelerated points when you stay with Marriott, right? And they're usually like running all year round. And if you're signed up with like right now, there's one where you get like if you're staying for 2 nights paid, you get like 4,000 additional points on top of the regular points that you'll be earning on the program itself. So yeah, so that's another way. Another like very like I guess like less talked about thing in like pretty much like at least in the hotel programs would be like you can just like easily top up points by buying some, and it at time it makes sense. Like I know somebody who was going to New York for work and they were planning to book. And it was like peak travel season. There was some UN happening, so the hotel prices were like very high. So they ended up like, and there was Marriott promotion going on with like 30% bonus miles if they like, I think about 30% bonus miles if they buy the points. They ended up buying points, and it was like ended up being cheaper than just booking it outright cash, right? Like that's also something that people should look out for. Like maybe you won't have enough points by the end of the year or like by 2 years to book the entire vacation, but you can like always top it up with like some additional points that you can buy during sale season. So I think like overall, if we look at it on like a reasonable time frame, and if you use like even like a few credit cards, use the promotions that Marriott runs, use the top up like basically bonus points when you buy them. If you put it all together, it ends up being like a very reasonable rewards program where you like yeah, again like it's better to like just have a free vacation than like not taking one at all after the two like end of 2 years or something, like just talking about like in general. um
Absolutely, absolutely. I think one of those other cards, I think Chaitanya, that could be interesting, which I think is a no-brainer for like someone who's just starting out very early in the game, is potentially the HDFC Diners Marriott card. Again, it's like I think 3,000 plus taxes, so comes to 3,500, 3,600 maybe per year. But what it does is it gives you a night free at any Marriott property, right? And I think it's the points are capped to 15K, but hey, you can top it up, like you said. If you've got points from elsewhere, then you can add up those points. Like a case in point being like, I'm traveling to Delhi now, end of this month, because one of my friends is getting married, and I was looking for accommodation, and I saw the Sheraton was going for around 22K a night. But when I looked at points, I saw it's available for 14K a night, and I thought 14K a night was a very attractive fare when it comes to points. I instantly booked it and grabbed it, and my free night award with the Marriott card. So here, what I'm doing is basically we're paying $3,500 for a 5-star property. and it's conveniently located to where I want it to be. So that's like an additional plus as well. So I think for our points and miles enthusiasts who are just getting into the game, definitely look at the Amex Platinum that Chaitanya recommended. Take a look at the Platinum Travel that Chaitanya recommended, the Bonvoy HDFC card. Anything else you'd recommend to score those points and accumulate a Bonvoy points, Chaitanya?
Yeah, I think like another one would be, I mean, it may not be advised for everybody, but like if you have a fixed trip and award availability in mind and you don't have the platinum charge card yet, I think it gives a big chunk of point upright. By just like, signing up for it, you get like as much as like 1.5 lakh point Marriott points, just by signing up and paying the annual fee, which is pretty steep. But if you think about like if you have a fixed vacation and the redemption in mind, you'll end up paying like the cash anyway, so you can might as well just use the points, and that gives you like. And I think it's again like it's not like something that you can time, but like oftentimes like Amex runs promotions where like you transfer points to Marriott, you get like 30% bonus. I did that like some time back. Um, like I pooled the miles for like a year in points in a year in Amex account, and like in November, around October, November, they ran this promotion where like you can transfer 30% now with a 30% bonus, so that ended up like your miles go even a longer way. So that's another something that you can look at. But again, like I wouldn't like put everything on it, because these are like, these as I mentioned, these are promotions. They may not happen every year. This year, I mean, they're saying that it'll happen like by end of November, December, but like it's still not sure, right? Like if I wouldn't just like shelf points for like this promotion, like, right, like if you have a reasonable redemption in mind, just transfer the points, book it. And if the promotion, like you cannot max out like your value every single year. Some of the years you just like end up short. So that's another like a few more ways you can like maximize the value. um yeah. So, and just to like share another incident, right? Like how you mentioned, like you're going to like for a wedding, and then like your dates are fixed. There are times when like in such instances, the cash price becomes very, very high. And you definitely need to take the trip, right? Like, so another way you can maximize, like, so perhaps like I was looking at Ahmedabad recently with the Coldplay concert happening, and like every hotel was like $500, $600 a night. And I said,
Did you score it? Did you score?
no, I didn't. So I'm partially there. Like I scored hotels, but I don't have I don't have tickets. So I'm just like trying to find tickets from somewhere. But the moment they announced it, and I didn't even book it, like the instances when there were like rumors of it happening. So like before, on the day they put it on Book My Show, I just went to Marriott and I scored like two rooms. At one at like ITC Narmada, and then another one at Courtyard Marriott. And like they were like 20,000 points a night, which is like crazy, right? Like the cash price was like close to like 400, $500. So
Correct.
even in such instances, like um, you can maximize your like savings when you know that you definitely are going to take the trip. If you have like tickets, it'll save you a big chunk of. But again, like these are very, very edge cases. We're just now talking about like all the different ways you can that reward programs can like save you money. So that's another, I think, like good part about dynamic, but the value not tied to like just the rupee value or like euro value. Like Ecor just puts Marriott program a little ahead in such instances. Like if there's an F1 race happening somewhere, and then like the every hotel prices are like going crazy, there's an award inventory that still can be booked for like much lower points.
Absolutely. I think great point, particularly Chaitanya, about the Amex Platinum charge card. A lot of people who are value conscious often complain about this card, saying that, hey, it's too expensive. Hey, it is expensive. Like at 66,000 plus taxes, it sure comes to about 75K a year. But you know what? The value that it gives is crazy, right? I mean, off late, they've been running this promo, like you said, 140K points. Those 140K points are absolute banger for your money, because like one, I love transferring, like you said, in bonus windows, transferring it out to to Bonvoy with a 30% bonus. It's very sweet. But I also try to hold on to those points because, every time I'm going to the US, my preferred carrier is one of the Middle Eastern airlines. And I love flying Emirates Etihad most of the time because the product is just so great.
Yeah.
And with Emirates, it's 1:2, but still those 140k points mean a lot. That's 70k Emirates. Emirates points are very hard to score. And those, when you're flipping towards a business or a first seat, are so lucrative, especially if you're a Skywards Plus member, right? If you have the Skywards Plus membership, then you get a 20% discount for upgrades. So I think it becomes like very, very powerful there.
Yeah.
So I think the Plaid Charge card, for those who can afford it, for sure, I think is one of those must-haves purely because of the sign-up bonus itself. And then they throw in these events every now and then, but they don't come by as often as you'd like. Like, for example, recently Indian Accent was in Bangalore, in JW Marriott on Laval Road, and Amex sent out and invite their Plaid Charge members for a complimentary meal. There you go. So that's like 12 to 15k in your pocket right there. In terms of the money, right? So I think so the charge card, I think, has a lot going for it. Especially, it gets you the Marriott Bonvoy Gold status for free, puts you up to Hilton Gold free, and through that you get breakfast free when you're staying at Hilton on points, so on and so forth. Gets you complimentary upgrades there. It's got the Hertz Gold, which can be valuable if you like to drive around in different countries. So I think like that's a good one too. So the Plaid charge, you all should consider it, take a look at it, and then figure if that works for you.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to talk about, Chaitanya, I don't know if you do this, but I think people should know is like, sign up and connect your either Singapore Airlines accounts and Marriott Bonvoy account, or your Emirates account and your Marriott Bonvoy account. So what happens is when you stay at Marriott Bonvoy, you get points automatically on a complimentary basis in Emirates Skywards, and or if you've linked it to Singapore Airlines, if you fly SQ, then you'll get complimentary points in your Marriott Bonvoy program. You can connect only one airline, by the way, so choose your airline that you prefer and travel the most. That's another way of just earning like a small chunk of points that can be helpful.
Yeah. And also I think like with SQ they have this accelerated goal status where you take like I think like two trips
Yeah.
in 6 months, then you can get that. Or I think like it's four. Like there's so many of these connect like status match things happening. So that's also an added perk. And another thing, like a lot of people who go out to US a lot, there are like a lot of these like Marriott tie-ups. For example, I mean, unlike India where they don't let you like order in Marriott you can like actually use Uber Eats, and they give you more points if if your Marriott account is connected to Uber, and it only works in the US. And if you're ordering food to a Marriott hotel, you get like more points. So there are like a lot of these offers that keep going on, which like can very easily add up. And similarly, like you mentioned about Hertz, like a lot of these programs would let you connect your so if you rent out cars often, you can connect your Marriott account there. You get like a fixed 500 to 600 or like 1,000 depending on which program it is. But per trip you get like those points too. So I think like it it kind of like I feel like this entire system is designed for consultants who like keep traveling, and there are like so many things that just like keep pulling up points. But like even like if 500 like 1,000 points per trip, like these things can very easily add up over the years or like over months depending on what your frequency of use is. um but I think like yeah, so you don't have to like even over optimize to the last 100 spent, but like I think like if you pick the most common ones and most like places where you have like a reasonable frequency, you can like actually like pull up points very quickly. Yeah, and as you mentioned, like American Express Platinum is like pretty solid. It's like a very like designed for a very specific TG. A lot of people will shit on it, but like I think um yeah, I think like a lot, like I know like a reasonable chunk of people who find it like very useful over the years, and get much more than like 70k that they pay, roughly 75k. Yeah, now.
Absolutely. Cool. Let's get on to elite statuses. And let's talk a bit about that. What do these mean? So the Bonvoy program has different statuses. You start off as a guest, then you have got silver, gold, platinum, and then ambassador titles. Chaitanya, would love to understand, what do these statuses mean? How have what's your status now? How has this status helped you over the years? What has this unlocked for you in terms of opportunities, so that people understand why these statuses are important, and then we'll, I think, try and talk about how we can get to a particular status and what are different means and avenues one could potentially use. So one would just love to understand from you, why these statuses matter, how you look at these statuses, what these statuses are, and what you've got out of these statuses, really.
Yeah. I think like Marriott at some point used to be like one of the best programs with like their elite statuses. They would like hand out very generous upgrades pretty much every time you would go. But now I think like recently they have started becoming more like property friendly. So they would try to like give the properties more like, say in how they like hand out upgrades and stuff. But like still it's like a very reasonable. I'm at titanium right now. But I feel like now I don't chase them anymore. Like I think there are certain fixed perks that you should like, that are valuable, but I would not chase it just for the sake of it, right? Like with gold, like I think it's the lowest tier, like that you just get straight out with the platinum charge card. I think the only value add there would be that you get like more points and like occasional upgrades, which is room upgrades. And if you look at like the Marriott portfolio overall, I think like most of the room categories are like they look pretty similar, right? Like there's nothing like you wouldn't even notice if they like improved, like give you an upgrade on room level. I think platinum is when like you actually start seeing some of the suite rooms, and like you get free breakfast, you get like lounge access wherever there is a lounge. And like some of these properties have like really gamified it, right? Like because now properties are more, right, they'll give you like a die that you roll, and then whatever comes you get that, which was pretty interesting. I think like Sheraton in at Brigade Bridge in Bangalore does it, right? Like they'll just give you that and you roll it. If you get a suite room upgrade, they'll actually do it right there. So that's pretty cool. Um, so I think like platinum, if you can get it without like pushing it, I think it could be very valuable. I mean, in the US, they hand it out with like just a card. But again, like I think depending on which region you're going, I think the value of these statuses keep changing. Like in India, if you're a platinum, you still get like a very good treatment. But in the US, every other person is a platinum. Nobody cares. The upgrades, as like a lot of people know now, that upgrades happen automatically, right? Like you don't need to reach out to the properties. They have like tried to like basically they're completely eliminating the need for somebody pushing for an upgrade. If there's availability, that it'll automatically happen the night before. So it's now being like made automatic. But over the years, being as a platinum, I think I would say only maybe once in 5 6 nights I would get like upgraded to a suite room. I think like you can also like kind of like game it in a way that if you look at the suite room count in a hotel, you can basically increase your odds of getting an upgrade. Like you can be a gold if the hotel has like 100 suite rooms, like they'll probably give you a suite. Like if you go to like a marquee property, they're like 2,000 room count property where they would not think twice before giving an upgrade. But if you go to like a edition hotel which has like 5 suite rooms, like they're not going to give it to you even if you're an ambassador, right? Like they'll hold on to it for like people who are actually going to pay for it. um that's one thing. Another thing I think people don't usually try often is like if you really, really want an upgrade with a status, you can actually, it also increases your odds of like negotiating a better price. Instead of like downright asking for free, you can try for that, but then you can try and negotiate a price which is lower than what they would give out to other people. Like if you're a platinum, there are more often than not, you can like very easily get like good upgrades, which are at a reasonable price. Like if you really, really want to stay in a suite room at a hotel. So that's one thing. So titanium again, like I think it add honestly, I've not really felt like much of a difference with titanium and platinum. Like it's so like it happens like so rarely, like all of these upgrades. So I wouldn't distinguish them much. Like But again, like if you're going to Southeast Asia, Japan, I think titanium and platinum people are treated like royalties. But like in the US, again, nobody cares. Like even if you go to a courtyard, like it's fine. They'll give you a breakfast, which is so sad. I always like skip it. So I think statuses are nice to have. You get like those milestone benefits that are again like great. Like with when you reach 50 nights at Marriott, you get to like a choice benefit, which is like either 5 sweet night awards, um, and a free night award, or you could give like a gold status to gift a gold status to somebody. So all of these perks are also there. But like in my experience, again, like the sweet night awards are like if a property was to extend like an upgrade, more often than not they would do it even if you don't apply your sweet nine awards, right? Like for platinum and titanium. But like sometimes it could like increase your odds, but it doesn't guarantee it like how they portray it to be, right? Like so I would always have that expectation in mind when you're like, because I've wasted like quite a few sweet nine awards because I could never use them. And oftentimes like this one time, like I applied sweet night award, it didn't go through. But then when I like it failed, they told me that they have refunded the credit. I went to the hotel and then they said, oh, we have upgraded you. So you like, so you know, these things also keep happening. I think what people need to understand is like Marriott is like such a diverse portfolio of properties, and each property have like a different way of functioning. So it's also like a, you cannot really take a blanket uh like how things work, and like it doesn't work the same way. I think one really good thing I would do, always like suggest people to do, is like go through the terms and conditions where like the perks are guaranteed. And you can always like, you should always push for the properties where the perk is guaranteed but was not given to you, right? So if there's like a breakfast that is guaranteed but the hotel is like, you know what, we are not extending it, like for the properties where it is guaranteed, Marriott will compensate you like really really well. They'll give you like $100 credit. Oftentimes some bonus points go along with it. So that's there. I think um yeah, so going back to the tier, I think like platinum and titanium is where like you actually start to notice some of the differences about like upgrades. Ambassador is like, again, like I have quite a few friends who have held ambassador status, but like they usually have nothing great to say about it. I think it used to be really good earlier with SPG, where like they had like a dedicated person, but now they have like removed all of these perks. Because a lot of people have like like started spending enough to become ambassador. So as like more and more people join the program and rise to that tier status, they need to like devalue it to like, you know, standardize the benefits that they can continue to offer. So that's how I see it. I think like it's it's g- it's as good as the guaranteed perks that you get with the status. I would not like put my hopes high on like, oh, occasional upgrades and all of that. But it's yeah, you know, like it's a benefit. You can always like fight for it if you really want it at the property, but not really worth it.
Right. So summarizing what Chaitanya said, I think what we've learned is if you want to get to Marriott Gold instantly, get the American Express Platinum Charge Card. That automatically upgrades you directly to Marriott Gold. But the real benefits, like Chaitanya said, start kicking in when you're Platinum, because with that you get one, free breakfast. Two, you get complimentary lounge access. So for those of you who like having a drink or two in the evening, this is substantial money saved. And then when you get breakfast, you get breakfast for the full family. So that's great too. So I think that's like a really good benefit to have. For there's a good hack that is still there. If you want to get to platinum, um, Marriott has this hack which is called the 14 nights status upgrade challenge, where you can enroll, and instead of doing 50 nights with Marriott, you can just do 14 nights in like a 4-month window, and then they extend you platinum status for like a year or a year and a half. So a lot of people, sometimes do these statuses to get platinum, because if you have substantial travel happening in the next year or two on the Marriott portfolio, the status can potentially help. And if you're eyeing that the titanium or ambassador, then this can help you fast track it. So just kind of keep that in mind. But largely, like Chaitanya said, right, the summary is free breakfast, lounge access. One of the things that I really enjoy, part of the Marriott Bonvoy portfolio, Chaitanya, is the early check-in and late checkout. This kind of really has helped me, particularly in Asia, not necessarily in US, because it's hard to do in the US, but in Asia it's very helpful. There are properties that have often given me complimentary late checkouts till 4 p.m., which is like a luxury, and have done it dime a dozen again. So if you're traveling in Asia, definitely I think that status will help. And one of the benefits of the gold status as well is free early check-in or late checkout, so you can potentially use that to your advantage. Late checkout is easier to get than early check-in, so just kind of keep that in mind as listeners as we discuss this.
Yeah, I think like they have gamified it a bit by like shrinking the check-in and check-out times and then making it a status perk. It's crazy
Yeah,
how like some properties would like ask you to leave at 10 a.m. Which is
correct.
like
Yeah,
right, like so 4 p.m. check-in, like 10 a.m. check-out, and then
it happens a lot in the US. Luckily, it's still not come to Asia though.
yeah, yeah. I think like yeah, overall, like I think it'll just like catch up to on this side. I think like yeah, you have much better chances of like getting that over like suite rooms. I think and also like with the app allows you to like request it, right? Like you don't even need to like go and inform the property for it. More often than not, you can just like request it on the app and then if there's inventory available, then just like extend it to you. But also that like I think thing people need to keep in mind is like if you request that, the chances of you getting an upgrade falls, right? Like they would not want you to hold a suite room longer than like a regular room longer. So if you're betting, counting on if you're increasing your odds of increase like getting an upgrade to a suite, I think discard every other benefit and then just hope that that happens. But you can always like request for a late checkout if they don't upgrade you, right? Like see, that's there are a few ways you can like maximize your benefits there. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I think the other hack a few of my friends have deployed is that people get smart at this. Oftentimes hotel programs can be smart, but I think people can be smart too. Like for example, a few of my friends, what they do is they'll try and request that upgrade. They'll score the upgrade. They'll get it, and then 2 hours before checkout, they'll call like, "Hey, can I get a late checkout?" And they're like, yeah, what time? And can I get 4 p.m.? I'm plat or I'm, titanium or whatever. And then the property honors it. Now, if you're going to request for a late checkout during check-in, you're definitely not getting that suite.
yeah.
So wave goodbye to that. But if in case you really want this, then I think your first experience is try these experiences for a while, score that free room, go live it once, and then slowly, you learn saying that, hey, get that suite upgrade, and then a couple of hours before you can call them and request it. But there's always this chance the property can deny it. They say, sorry, we're running full, and you'll have to give us the room at 12.
Yeah.
But a lot of times if you ask nicely, which is how humanity works, more often than not, it does work, unless it's like an exceptionally busy day for the hotel, of
Yeah.
course.
And another thing, like when it comes to like achieving these statuses, is like a lot of people think that I know, like for us, like in the this entire like miles points community, I think like a lot of people know that you don't get points and night credits for like the reservations booked through OTAs like makemytripbooking.com. But a lot of people think that they would get it, right? Like so, um, I know like quite a few people who are like big spenders in travel and yet they would go to booking.com and like book their stay, like even if it's Marriott, and then all the perks that you get with the statuses are denied, right? But then I ask them why they do it is like often though the price is cheaper. But what one thing Marriott does is they guarantee the best price. So you can always like even if like the price on Marriott app is higher, and if you find the price somewhere else which is cheaper, always, and if there's enough time in between, you can always like request for a price match guarantee, and they also compensate. They'll discount the price which you found was cheaper by 25% and also give you points. So there are like a lot of these things, and I always do it. Like there was this one time I had like a week long stay at the Edition in New York. The price on Make My Trip was about, I think, 28,000 roughly a night, and the price on Marriott was like 35. Like it was a reasonable difference. And but I was checking, and I got to know this like by checking like one day prior to arrival. So the Marriott has like a helpline for like status match, and it's a US number, but on that they'll do it right away. Like if you call them, you tell them this is the website link. You can like send them a screenshot and like link of where you found the rate. um and they'll just like match it within 24 hours. But I was like checking in before 24 hours, and like the price, like it would have become non-refundable in that case. So I just called them up. They gave me a 25% discount on the cheaper rate, and it ended up becoming a very, very sweet deal. It's like 200 something dollars for a Times Square edition hotel, which is like usually 400 plus a night. And I got the points and the night credits, which I would have otherwise not gotten with Make My Trip booking. So always look out for these cheaper rates, and then also like request a price match with like in different like in other programs it doesn't always work, but like Marriott is pretty generous. Like in my experience, I've had like this has happened like twice with me already, and the price has been like I've saved reasonable amount of money on that.
Yeah, that's really good advice. That's really good advice, Chaitanya. So, like you said, a lot of people who are new to the points game, whenever you're booking Marriott, and if you value, statuses and reciprocal benefits, do book directly via the Bonvoy app. Or the Marriott.com website. If you book through OTAs like Make My Trip or any other source like Booking.com, Agoda, you're not going to get points when you stay at Marriott portfolio. So always book direct. And like Chaitanya said, right? I mean, if the rate is higher, you can always call them and they'll not only match it, but they'll also, be generous with a reciprocal benefit. So I think definitely do that. Chaitanya, let's talk about what have been some of your favorite redemptions. Like, can you talk about three of your favorite redemptions? And my intent to ask you this is because we should also tell the world and share with our listeners, how do you burn points? How do you book redemptions? You spoke a little bit earlier about the fifth night free benefit. I think that's a good one. But then, what have been your top three most loved redemptions on Bonvoy of all time? Can you take a specifics of what you liked about it, what they costed, and why they were so awesome?
Yeah. I think like that's such a difficult question, because each like best could mean different things. Like, right, like if we just talk about like aspirational stays where I saved a lot of money and had like a phenomenal experience which I would otherwise not pay for. So my top three would be, I mean, I think like most people already see it coming if they follow me. The first one is the Mandapa Ritz-Carlton Reserve in Bali. I think it's hands down. This property is very close to me because I've interacted with the staff and like the GM over many years, and like how they have like shaped and what they like truly stand for, and like the hospitality culture there. I think it's very unique, and it's super expensive on cash. It's like $1,600 a night or something. Um, but on points, I think like the first redemption that I did there was, I've only redeemed points there and not really paid cash. It was 80,000 points a night, which is pretty solid. Uh, and the last time I was there, I paid like actually a points plus cash for like a confirmed villa upgrade, which was I think around 85 or 90,000. It's been a while. So roughly around that figure, points a night. And then I paid $250 for the confirmed villa upgrade. So I'm not counting on like, oh, maybe I'll get upgraded or not. But so, and it was pretty solid. The villas are like phenomenal. You get like a private pool. They have like a separate living area, which is not connected. It's like a small hut on the side. Um, so whenever you're ordering breakfast, so like one thing they do allow you to do is like you can have breakfast in villa, and you can just call them the night before and tell them like, I usually have it at this hour. So you wake up, you don't need to call them. If you go at that hour, it's already set up in that villa. So that like saves up like some time in the morning of like, calling them and asking for it, and then them taking some time. um, One very interesting fact about that property is that when they built that property, so the GM like was telling me that so the owner was not happy with how it looked because it looked too new. Like it was set up in Ubud, like very tropical, like kind of a foresty area, and it looked very manicured. It's like, no, this doesn't look like a part of this area. So we know we need to shut it for like 3 years, and they would just water the walls and like all the areas that looked new, so that the moss would grow on it, and like basically they tried to age it. So I think like when you go that far to ensure like how the entire experience is, you cannot really go wrong with like the service and the hospitality. I think more than the points, I think it's just I really like how they have like the culture that they have there, and again, like it's great value even if you look at the redemption. uh, the second one would be Almaha. Of course, I think like for a lot of people, it's one of the best because it's an all-inclusive property. You get meals, all meals are included. You also get activities. Two activities are included. So it was my birthday trip. Like three of my friends, we went there. We did like a 2 night stay. It was pretty like again, like very nice experience. Oftentimes those oryx would walk into your villa and you wake up and they're like having water from the pool. It's a very nice experience. So if you are like a family, don't want to go too far, it's in Dubai, so like you can just take a quick flight. I think now it goes for about 100,000. Even then I booked it for like 100,000 points redemption because it was not like the off season. And it was like I had a fixed date when I wanted to redeem it. It was my birthday, so I just ended up doing it. But again, like it goes for again 1,600 $2,000 a night. Um, and if you're redeeming it, go for villa number 6 because it has like a very distant I don't know what they call it, like a pool of water, like you can see it, and then a lot of the oryx would go there to drink from it. So you wake up and you have like a very nice view of it. Uh, and it's a little elevated. It doesn't have like interruption of other villas, those old tents located in front of it. Again, very small property. I think one very good litmus test to know which property is great is just look at the room count. If it's above 100, you'll have like a very business-like experience, right? If it's below 50, you'll have a very like personalized experience. So depending on if you want to like have a good experience, just go with a villa or like a property with lower room count. um so that's that would be the second really good one. I think they have what 20 tents. So it's just like and they have like one very big ones which is like 2 bedroom ones. So there is, you don't need to like get an upgrade to have a good experience. Everybody has a good experience, similar to like Ritz-Carlton Reserve, the Mandapa. Like even if you don't get the villa, the rooms are like massive, right? Like they're like I think the biggest rooms that I've been to, and they have like a nice balcony, long balcony of like a very good river view, all of that. A la carte menu. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I'm big on a la carte menu because it's when they plate everything nicely for you. I think it just increases the experience rather than you just going picking. But if you look at like a lot of people I know who like buffet, they have like 2 3 items at max, right? Why not just like order it nicely and like they'll plate it for you again, like on completely side note. But so that's one. The second and the third would be a third is so difficult. I mean, I've like all the others redemptions that I've had like been like pretty standard, right? Like not nothing uh, very great about them. Uh, yeah, so I mean, there have been a few nice ones like the St. Regis in New York, uh, which I booked. We was just like again, it was a birthday of my partner, and then we were like just doing that. So I redeemed it for 80,000 points a night, which was pretty solid. Like it again goes for like like $1,000 plus a night. And again, I think we only talked about the aspirational ones. I think like some have been like just great value saved. Like this one time I had a work trip to New York, and every hotel was like super expensive. So I saved a lot of money on that. Was for the New York edition. It's a very nice property in Fifth Avenue. Um, and I paid close to like 60,000 points a night, and I did a 5 night redemption. But like all the other properties, even some of the courtyards were like $500 plus, which was again like crazy. So sometimes you just like it's a good value save. So I would honestly put that on third instead of like any other aspirational stays. And another very unique thing about that property is they don't have too many rooms on one floor. So like when you have lower room count on a floor, when you go there, you it feels like you're the only one in the hotel. So it gives you like a very, very like, unless like you're very extroverted and want to interact with people, like I'm introvert pro max. I wouldn't want to even like, interact with the check-in staff. So I think like it's a great property. It's like very, very cozy. And like if you go to a like any floor, it's just, I think like they have like, I think less than 10 rooms per floor. So again, you have like Empire State Building view from the window. Again, very low key, minimal aesthetics. Not everybody likes it, but like I'm a big fan of like not too goldy like kind of a view, like the room interiors. So again, like that would be the third. They have again like a la carte breakfast, which is pretty solid. I think hands down the best breakfast I've had in New York. Um, Unlike like all of these scrambled eggs and I don't know, like black coffee sitting on the side, even in some of those very expensive hotels in the US. So those would be my top three. I wonder like what's your like? I think I would love to know like what all places have you spent your Marriott points and what are the best ones so far?
Yeah, yeah, I'd love to share. But first thing, before I forget, I think 200% with you on a la carte breakfast. Yeah, buffet breakfast is a sham. I
Yeah,
think it's a scam. Like you're just scamming people. It's unnecessary calories and it's food that just doesn't taste great. It's made en masse
yeah,
and you don't get it fresh. Like think about it, right? I mean, would you have 20 things that you don't like? Or have that one thing that you will absolutely gorge on and enjoy? Like for example, I was in Hyderabad and for some reason I noticed something interesting on the menu. I never take the buffets, by the way. Even if I have complimentary breakfast, I'll call for the chef. I'll say I have a request. I don't want the buffet. What is it that you do that's really special? Just get me that one thing and I'm happy, man.
yeah,
So he said, so chef asked me, sir, what do you like? And I was like, I love a good Benedict. And he's like, you know what, I'm going to give you my own twist. I'm like, what's that? He's like, why don't I make you a nice ghee roast Benedict?
wow,
I'm like, dude, now you're talking.
yeah,
See, and then that just opened up such a unique window of possibility. The other thing that I really like is like when you're going, just ask them for a nice avocado toast with some nice truffle oil on top. Just elevates your palate
yeah,
to a whole different league, right?
yeah,
Um, if you enjoy coffee, just if you enjoy a little bit of sugar, ask them, Vietnamese cold coffee. It's just so elegantly
yeah,
done. It depends on what you really enjoy. If you like, good gourmet coffee, which is black, you can ask them, and they'll gi- they'll go out of your way and then come and tell you, saying that I have these three. Which one would you
yeah,
like? Instead of just getting the black coffee from the pot, which is just not going to make
yeah,
sense for you. Similarly, if you want chai, right, just call the server and tell them that, hey, can you do a nice ready-made Indian tea,
yeah,
rather than the tea bag thing that you're going to get me, which I'm not going to enjoy. I'm willing to wait 15-20 minutes, but just get me a good cup of chai and they'll make the effort.
yeah.
So plus one on the breakfast. I'm always an a la carte guy. I hate buffets. I never do breakfast, lunch, or dinner for buffets. Always a la carte. So
Yeah.
so with you there.
You know what? Like I have another just point to add to this. Like I like having interacted with like so many of these chefs and like mixologists at some of these bars and hotels. Like a lot of them don't actually enjoy what they are making for like the entire pool of guests. The one thing that I always do, often do, where like wherever there's no a la carte menu, is like I just ask the chef like, okay, what do you enjoy the most making for like breakfast? And they would always come up with the similar answer that you mentioned, right? They have like a twist on something and they would put like so much because they enjoy it. They'll go an extra mile to just make it because now they're like somehow trying to impress you with what they have come up with, and you'll end up always having like a much better experience than just like picking up like whatever um omelet station or whatever they have on the side. So just like always do that. I mean, sure, it does take like a little bit of time because again, like they are dealing with like so many guests, but you'll have like a far better experience than any of those like buffet experiences that you have. Like maybe like the viewers should try it the next time whenever they are there, like at any property. I'm sure like the lower like a 4-star business hotel won't go like an extra mile, but like always worth trying at like some of these good ones.
Oh, for sure. And now I think people are like doing all kinds of good experiments, right? Especially if you enjoy a Benedict. People are now doing croissant Benedicts, they're doing cronut Benedicts, they're doing all
Yeah,
this amazing gastronomy
yeah,
fusion. And you're like, holy cow,
yeah,
like this is really good. And then you start looking forward to
yeah,
breakfast rather than saying, oh my god, I gotta get up and
yeah,
go. Then you're like, okay, and I think just putting that little bit of effort of going and talking to the chef or requesting the chef,
yeah,
I think that goes such a long way, because then the chef also, really feels like, oh my god, this is a guest who's actually asking for
yeah,
me. Let me do something special for him or
yeah,
her. So I think like that also makes like a big
yeah.
difference.
Yeah, so like, a lot of these people at the start of their journeys of becoming like a like maybe a restaurant owner, like a head chef, and they always like have these, like experiments that they keep doing in their free time, and they would love for people to like, give like feedback and try these things out. And same with like mixology. If you go to like a bar and if you ask the person like, what is the menu that you are working on in your head, and they'll always have like a few drinks that they have like tried and their friends love it, but it's not part of the menu. And if you ask for them, like again, like you'll have a very solid experience, and now you have also made like sort of like a relationship with this person. And like, whenever you go next, they'll like remember you, and then they'll give you a better experience overall, I think. So you can just like keeps building onto it over the years.
For sure. For sure, for sure. One of my favorite Bonvoy redemptions has been the Meridian Maldives. I think I went there the year it opened, the month it opened, in fact. I think it opened maybe September uh, of 21 or 22, I don't remember. But I went there. Nikhil was their GM, and he was an Indian. And he used to be earlier at the Oberoi Bangalore. He was a GM here, and then he opened the Ritz Bangalore, and then he went there. And I remember 200K points, overwater villa with pool. Lee Meridian Maldives. It had just opened up. The very month it opened up, we went there. It was spectacular. I think Sanya, my wife, and I had a great time. 5 nights, incredible food. Made good friends with the chefs there, and they have three different restaurants there. So again, good friends with the chef. I'm still in touch with them. We WhatsApp and Instagram each other all the time. Still friends with the GM as well. And I mean, Maldives is just such a pretty country, and the resorts are so beautiful. The water's so clean. If you enjoy water life, if you enjoy the corals, absolutely go there. Have a great time. The other thing that I love Marriott Bonvoy for is, other than the hotels, it's also the transfer airlines thingies, like you said, Chaitanya. So this one time I had award of availability on Emirates to upgrade to first, and I needed I think 72K or 73K points, something like that, to upgrade. So I had to move my Marriott, and I did. And I was thinking, I was like, boy, this is a decent chunk of Marriott, right? Which is 70 into 3, it comes to like 200K. I'm like, 200K, is it worth it? And I'm like, screw it, you know what, let's do it. Emirates first is like once in a lifetime on an A380. Did that, pulled the trigger. uh, I walk into the aircraft, and the hostess comes and tells me, Mr. Bandukwala, welcome to your private jet. And I'm just like taken aback. And I'm like, private jet? Question mark. And she says, Mr. Bandukwala, you're the only person flying first with us
Oh,
today. And she gets 4 people with her, which are her staff, and says, all of us are at your
yeah,
service. Forget the menu. Forget anything and everything that you've heard about us. Whatever you need, we are here for you.
yeah,
I was like, holy cow. Now, there are 14 seats on an Emirates first
yeah,
cabin, typically in an A380. I'm the only one there. And I felt like a king. I felt that day I'd arrived in life for some reason, although it was just for 16
yeah,
hours from San Francisco to Dubai. Perhaps one of my best
yeah,
experiences. Like, they really, really know. Like, Emirates knows their hospitality. They know how to pamper you. They know how to take care of you. It's a shame I don't have alcohol. So all that Dom Perignon or whatever you call it went to waste. But I enjoyed the food, and I enjoyed the hospitality. It was just incredible for 16 hours being on Emirates. So other than the Bonvoy collection and hotels, I'm a big fan, like you said, of the Edition properties as well. I just love Edition as a brand. I think they do things so well, and they're so unique. But the Emirates partnership and my love for Emirates just,
yeah.
I think, was one of my tops.
I think like you followed the principle that we talked about, right? Like you can get this value today, or you want to
Yeah,
save those points for like some future thing that may or may not happen. I think like everybody who is in the split when they are deciding if they should pull the trigger to book it or not, just you'll forget about how much rupee value that you got the moment you enter the hotel, right? So if you feel that you'll have like a good experience, I think nobody is like calculating. I mean personally, I would never calculate my life on the money saved or like, whatever that is. So unless, I mean, you don't have to waste your points on buying vouchers or like a headphone set, but if you can get like a reasonable travel redemption, just do it, because I think you or your loved ones, I think the memories, I think they'll enjoy it far more than like thinking about, oh, I may have gotten like 40 paisa more for this particular redemption. And you are like rupee goes much further than like Marriott Bonvoy points. So you're saving cash.
For sure. And I think, I'm not sure, I think this was your tweet, and correct me if this was not. I think it went to something on the lines of, these days, like whenever you switch on Instagram, Twitter, or you're watching one of those YouTube video shots, and it comes like, have you reached your fire number, and are you ready to retire early,
Yeah,
and this is how much you need to put in mutual funds every month. I'm like, the cost of what?
yeah,
Like, am I not supposed to live my life? I mean, think about it, right? We all have finite time, and ultimately life should be measured in the amount of time you are exchanging for this thing called life.
yeah,
And it costs money. It's fine. But the point is, if I just keep saving pro max, then what's the point of having lived life?
yeah,
So I think it was something along the lines you alluded, right, to one of those
yeah,
influencers or something like that.
yeah,
So I think like, that's great context, and I related to that so much.
yeah. Yeah, I think I tweeted, make sure your life is bigger than your portfolio, right? Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So I think, yeah, people, I don't know, like, even with like points, I think like people try to like over optimize experiences. One thing that I've learned like myself, I think I'm lucky to have known that like a little earlier in life, because I saw some like very close people very close to me, um, like spend all their lives like coming like making lives comfortable for their other people, and then like not enjoying any of it. I think you should not be reckless with your spendings, but like always take a moment to like actually enjoy what you have achieved. I think, um, and we don't know, right? Like what happens to us like 2 3 years down the line. You cannot just keep offsetting everything, right? Like just even the most successful people I know, like they don't. I think people have a very like a misconception about like success. Like some of the people who have really, really made it in their lives are not like optimizing every penny saved, right? I think like it just makes no sense. And the same goes for like, all these loyalty programs and rewards and stuff. I think if you start spending too much time in optimizing the last rupee, you just miss out on a lot of things. I think you should like do a like assessment of what the value of your time is, and just like only invest enough to just like get the good value out of it, not just like go overboard with, and regardless of what other people are doing around you, right? Like I think sometimes people, you just like end up surrounding yourself in like around with these people who just make you feel that that's how the world works, but honestly no, not really. Just do what works for you.
Yeah, plus one. I think one of my favorite quotes of all time is, and I don't know who said it, but it always stuck to me, is like, the price of anything is the amount of life you are willing to exchange for it. So, I mean, if you think about that, that's so profound, right?
Yeah,
So, for anything, just don't hold it in such high regard, man. Just focus on having one great day at a time, and you'll see that you've just sort of made so much.
yeah,
All right, time to wrap up the episode, Chaitanya. So, this has been so much fun interacting with you, learning about your redemptions, figuring out what you've done, how you've kind of made the most of your points and miles, how you look at it as a strategy, and how you approach life, as well as life with points and miles. Parting words, parting wisdom, parting thoughts, for one, someone who's just getting started with points and miles, and two, someone who's like a seasoned points and miles geek. So, two words of wisdom.
yeah. So I think like it's pretty straightforward. I think if you're just starting out, start with something that is like that you can do within like a few months, right? Like be it getting the Amex Platinum travel card, get those points, redeem at a reasonable property, and get a taste of it. I think that sets you up for like, going after the bigger, like aspirational stays. Start small, start optimizing only the spends that are worth optimizing for. Don't go after every like 50 rupee, 100 rupee, whatever. And you'll go a long way just following this strategy. Um, and don't get carried away by like all these first class flights or whatever. I think you'll eventually get there, but like try to do what you can do in the meantime. For the people who have already tried all of it, I think one thing that I keep telling a lot of my friends is that, you know, if you if you're traveling somewhere, there are only a few meals or few drinks that you can have at that place. Don't hold yourself back just by doing it because your hotel offers it for free. Step out, go to a good restaurant, try that out. If there's a property that is unique to that place and not available on Marriott, it's okay to spend, unless it's like your fifth or sixth trip, right? Like, but if this is something you're only going to do once, try to maximize the experience. Unless like you're restricted by money, I think then of course you should use your points. Uh, but try to look beyond all of these like rewards and loyalty systems. Sure, they come with their perks, but don't let them like basically dictate how you travel, right? I think I think I was big on like when I started out, that's what I used to do. Like I would only stay and book wherever I could use the points. But now I tend to like whenever I can, I do it. But there are some experience that I would not miss. And like, some of my friends hate me for that because I always push them not to have a drink or like eat breakfast at a hotel buffet because I know this really good restaurant or like really good mixologist in the city where we should go and try it out. So yeah, that's these are a few words I wanted to share with everybody.
Awesome. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Great Indian Points and Miles Show. Chaitanya, thanks so much for joining us and sharing your wealth of knowledge about Marriott Bonvoy. From exploring how to earn rewards strategically to unlocking elite perks and maximizing redemptions, this episode has been a masterclass in luxury travel hacking. To all our listeners, if you've been inspired by today's conversation, don't just stop dreaming. Start earning and start planning your own incredible journeys. Remember, every point you earn brings you closer to your next adventure, whether it's sipping coffee in Paris, relaxing on that private beach in Maldives, or enjoying a mountain retreat in Aspen or a croissant in Paris. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure you to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. And don't forget to follow Chaitanya on social media for even more tips and tricks. He's truly the expert you need in your feed. His handle is at the rate brown points on Twitter and on Instagram. Until next time, keep swiping, keep saving, and keep unlocking the world one point at a time. For all of you who are new to the Points and Miles world, let me end this episode. If you like the band Green Day, they have this particular song which says it's something unpredictable, but in the end, it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. With that, it's Chaitanya and Aadil signing off from the Great Indian Points and Miles show.
Lights flashing bright, we're on the go. Tune in now, there's so much to know. Earning bits, travel dreams we sow. All aboard the Great Indian Points and Miles show. Zero to hero in the blink of an eye. Fly first class, no need to be shy. Redemption sweet, touching the sky. Award seats booked, let's give it a try. Award seats booked, let the points flow. It's all aboard the Great Indian Points and Miles show. Unlocking journeys wherever you go. The sky's the limit, feel the travel mojo. Hidden treasures in every flight. Nights in places that feel so right. From deserts to the city lights. Get set, steal those dazzling sights. Miles stack up each passing day. Rewards come back in a million ways. In this game you want to play, the Great Indian Adventure. seats booked, let the points flow. It's all aboard the Great Indian Points and Miles Show. Unlocking journeys wherever you go. The sky's the limit, feel the travel mojo.